but your girl did not live her best life. I am not kidding you. Like, do not take this lightly. Like Coke. And I don't mean Coca-Cola, because advisors are honestly haters, not motivators. So, hi guys, it's Nazarene, and today I'm going to be talking about things that I wish I knew before going to college, and just some tips that honestly would have made my life 100 times easier and would have saved me a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because I would really appreciate it. So first off, I guess I'll start off with my biggest regret, and something that if I could go back in time and change, I 100% would. And that is just be open to other different majors. Even if you think you know what you want to major in, or you're like, I'm gonna major in this and nothing else, like there's no way, no possibility, even if that's you, just like leave a window open for you to be able to look into other things, because you honestly never know. And I'm pretty sure the statistic is like a student changes their major on an average of 3 times or something like that, and that is something that I went through, which I didn't think I was gonna go through. And you honestly might end up changing to a major that you didn't even know basically existed, or that you just had no prior interest in. So it's always better to just keep that open. Take a bunch of required electives that everyone needs to take, and then take only like 1 or 2 classes for a certain major that you think you know what you want to do, and then see how that goes. But don't just go full into it. And something that I recommend for this, which you're probably gonna be like, obviously, but look at the list of all the majors that your school offers, because you might come across things that you didn't even know was a major, or things that, you know, you just never thought of and you never looked into, and you might be really interested in that, and you might change it to that, which is something that happened to me. I thought I was gonna major in bio, and now I'm a public health major, and I didn't even know public health was a major until my sophomore year. Fast forward to now my senior year, I'm like, wait, I think I should have majored in health admin instead. But if I had explored this earlier, I could have changed it already. I could have avoided taking some classes that I ended up taking for no reason and ended up struggling in, which I promise you is like literally the most frustrating thing ever. The next thing I would probably say, this is my number 2 biggest regret, is make sure you look at the reviews on Rate My Professor. But even if they have an overall like good grade of like a 3, a 3.5, make sure you read the reviews and see what the bad reviews are saying, because I got bamboozled on Rate My Professor, and there was this professor that overall he had like a good average, but there was like 4, maybe 5 bad reviews, and I was just like, I think it's fine, like, you know, if everyone else is saying like he's alright and his average is pretty good, then like I think I'll be okay. But no, your girl was not okay. This was such a big mistake, and I should have never ever taken this class with this professor, because the bad reviews were the true ones, and I have no idea where these good reviews came from, and I'm sorry, but he did not deserve those good reviews. So if there are bad reviews, and if someone says something that, you know, seems like it wasn't necessarily their fault, like they weren't just slacking, make sure you pay attention to that, and probably just don't take it with that professor. If there is not another professor available and you can't get into another section, just wait if you can to take that class like the next semester and get it with a good professor, because a good or bad professor can really make or break your grade, and it makes literally the biggest difference in the world. I am not kidding you. Like, do not take this lightly. And another personal story is that I took a nutrition class that was supposed to be an easy A. There was this really good professor, and then this other one which was good but not as good as this one, but I couldn't get into this section, so I was like, whatever, I'll just take the next best thing. It was supposed to be an easy A, but it was not an easy A, and I actually got a B+, and I'm so upset because it was supposed to be an easy A. But I had a friend who had taken it with a really good professor, and one day I was studying and she was like, oh yeah, like we did not learn that, or like we did not need to know that. Their exams were a lot easier, and just the material that they were given was a lot easier, and we essentially learned a bunch of things that we just did not need to know. And it was the same exact class. So even if a class is supposed to be the same thing and you're technically supposed to be learning the same thing, it can vary greatly depending on the professor. So just always go with the best one, and if you can't go with the best one, wait the next semester if you can. I promise you, just avoid it at all costs. You do not want to take any class with a bad professor, because you will regret it. So don't just think like, oh, I think I might be fine, like, you know, I'll teach myself, it's no big deal. Like, no, just avoid it. Please avoid it, and you will thank me for this if you do. And the next thing that I want to talk about that I feel like not a lot of people mention, but it's very important because it happens a lot more than you think, so bear with me on this one. I'm not saying that it's like okay, like if you fail a class, it's not like whatever, I failed a class, no big deal. Like yes, it is a big deal, but don't make it more of a big deal than it is, if that makes sense. Like you will be fine if you fail a class, like life moves on. Don't cry about it for weeks and weeks and think that you're a failure or think that you're stupid or think that you have to change your major. And this is especially if this is something that like you know you want to do and you know you want to pursue. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're not cut out for it. In some cases it will mean that, but most of the time what it really has to do with is your study habits and what you're, you know, currently doing, or what you might have carried out from high school just simply isn't working, and you need to find out what works best for you. But that does not mean that you're stupid in any way, shape, or form, and you can totally get past it. And honestly, it happens a lot, like a lot more than you think. And actually for 2 different classes on 2 separate occasions, this happened on my first day of pre-calc and my first day of chem. I walked in, I sat next to a random person who I didn't even know, and they were just like, yeah, like this is my second time here, like I'm retaking this class. You will probably encounter multiple people who have to retake a class, and like I said, it's not like okay, like you shouldn't think that it's not a big deal. And if you do fail a class, just make sure you have a little talk with yourself, get your stuff all in order, get your priorities straight. But really what it usually has to do with is your study habits. Obviously it sucks and you don't want it to happen, and I would definitely strongly recommend to try to avoid it from happening to begin with. But if it does happen, just make sure you pull through for the next time you take it and for other classes, and you will be perfectly fine. Honestly, it really isn't the end of the world, and like I said, it happens to a lot of people. Don't go to advisors for advice. Now obviously not all advisors are the same, and there are some out there that are really nice and actually there to help you, but there are some that will honestly just make you feel like crap and will make you feel discouraged and honestly tell you the wrong thing and just things that you don't need to hear. And a perfect example of this is that, which you guys probably heard also. So it's happened so many times where a certain person, you know, really wants to go to med school. That's their dream, that's their passion. They know they want to do that, and maybe they struggled a little bit with a few classes. Maybe they even failed 1 or 2 and had to retake it, but they still want to go through with it and this is their passion. And then they go to an advisor, and the advisor looks at the grades and they're like, yeah, no, like you're not cut out for this. You're never going to get into med school. I suggest you change your major. And that is something that will happen a lot. But if they see your grades aren't like straight A's or the greatest, they will be like,
like I think you need to change your major, like I don't think this is really for you.
Instead of just being like, okay, well maybe you need to change your study habits, you can do it if you really want to, if this is your passion, I believe in you, you can succeed. They won't tell you that. A lot of them will discourage you instead of encourage you. So if you're in this situation where you know that you want to do something but you're struggling a little bit, that's what I'm here to tell you for. You can do it. I promise you, you can get through it. And if an advisor tells you that you're not cut out for it, don't listen to them. Do not listen to them at all whatsoever. If it's something that you want to do, work your butt off and I promise you'll get there, and nothing can stop you but you, honestly. Yeah, really just don't listen to the haters, because advisors are honestly haters, not motivators. So the very first advisor I went to freshman year was just honestly like awful. I came in with a question. I don't remember what this question was, but she rambled off for like 40 minutes, told me that I should probably look into other things, told me that other students get like straight A's, blah blah blah, and just basically made me feel like crap. And then she also did not even give me the answer to my question, so it was a waste of time and she made me feel like crap. So avoid it. And now the next thing is, don't skip class without knowing the consequences. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you to not skip class, because I mean honestly everybody does it. You're probably gonna do it even if you think you might not do it, and sometimes it really is not a big deal. However, try not to make a habit out of it, and if you do make a habit, which I would strongly advise you not to, but if it happens and you miss a lot of classes for, you know, a certain class, just know what you're getting yourself into and know the consequences before you do that. Because there was one class that that I took my sophomore year, and it was honestly an extremely easy A class. Like, it wasn't that much work. You just need to show up because participation was like a huge part of your grade. But at the end of the semester, there was a significant amount of D's and F's, and that's just because people didn't show up, so they didn't know what was going on. They didn't know that they had to participate at least 5 times and then sign a paper on it like at the end of class, and they didn't know about discussion posts that we had to do and just other things like that that honestly really hurt them. And I can't even imagine what their reactions were like, because if I had gotten a D or an F in an easy A class, I would have just bawled. Like, that is such a huge mistake, and just don't do it. And it's so unnecessary and something that's completely avoidable. If it's an easy A class, make sure you get that A. Don't just skip because you think it might be easy, because you might be missing out. So yeah, just be aware of that and know what you're getting yourself into. The next thing I'm going to talk about is feeling alone or just lonely when you first go to college. So obviously college is very new and it's a whole new chapter in your life, and when I first went to college, I was expecting like this amazing, wonderful time of my life, and to kind of just get everything instantly, and like to, you know, just have a bunch of friends and just be happy and live my best life. But your girl did not live her best life. To be honest, I hated college my first semester of freshman year. Like, I absolutely hated it. I was having such a hard time, not having the time of my life. I did not like it one bit whatsoever, and that's because I just felt like I didn't have like enough friends, and I saw other people and like saw their stories. They were living their best lives, but I felt like my experience was exactly opposite from them. So obviously that made me feel even worse, because I was like, what the heck? Like, I want to live my best life. Why am I not living that right now, but other people are? So I would say if this does happen, it's perfectly fine. Like, you're not alone, and don't think that there's something wrong with you or anything like that. Like, it does happen, especially at bigger schools, because when there's so many people to just like go around, it can be harder to make friends. You see literally new faces every single day, so there's really not a lot of familiar faces. Like, I barely see like my close friends on the daily. Like, if I see them on my way to class, that's honestly rare. So you could imagine that how many different people you see on a day-to-day basis. So that obviously makes it a little harder to make friends, because new people everywhere you go. But something to help and prevent this and make it just a little bit better, I mean, I don't know if people are going back or like what they're doing with the whole dorming situation, and you've probably heard this before, but like, leave your room door open, socialize with the people that's like on your floor, go upstairs, downstairs, the whole building, talk to everyone, try to make friends that way. And that's a wonderful way, and a lot of people make friends that way and keep those friends until like senior year. Me personally, my dorm building was not like this. It was very antisocial, and a lot of people just minded their own business, which is why I didn't make friends in my dorm, and which is why I felt like I was like at a huge disadvantage because of that. But if you have a normal dorm, which you probably would, then this is a great way to make friends. And if you have a situation that's kind of like mine, where nobody really wants to talk in your building and nobody really wants to be friends, then join a club, join a sport, do something, just put yourself out there. And I know it's kind of hard, and if you're like introverted, like when I first meet people, I'm definitely more on the shy side, but you really just have to like push yourself out there and get out of your comfort zone, and you never know like the people that you can meet. So join a club, and I know even if it's not to meet friends, this is my next tip: join a club regardless. This is something that I wish I would have done. I did join a sorority, but that's pretty much the only thing I'm involved in, and it is so beneficial, I promise you, to join a club, because this helps with like leadership skills, especially if you get an e-board position, and just like your people skills and your time management, and literally just so many things that you wouldn't even think of, but it really does help. And I know it can be kind of annoying because club meetings are usually late at night, and you don't necessarily like want to go out that late, especially if it's cold, but really just try to go anyways and push yourself. Don't be lazy. You can be lazy when you're dead. And the worst thing that can happen is that if you join a club and you don't like it, you can always just quit. Like, you don't have to keep on going. You could just stop going. But if you never join a club and then you join it later on, your junior or senior year, or if you just never do, you'll be like, well, darn, I really should have done something, shouldn't have I? So it's better to just go. if you don't like it, you don't gotta keep on going, and it's perfectly fine, but at least you tried. The next thing is, if you go out, once again, I don't know what the situation's gonna be like, so this might apply to like a year later from now, but once things are normal and there's like parties, if you go out, wear a jacket. Just please wear a jacket. Freshman year, me and my friends did not wear a jacket when we went out. We had our little like frat flannel, and it was just a flannel that I wore all the time when I went out. But get a jacket, invest in a jacket. Don't take a really expensive one out just in case you do lose it. You don't want to be sad about it. So invest in a frat jacket, and just wear that in the winter. Do not freeze your butt off, because you will be sicker than I don't even know what. But my freshman year, we went out like every single weekend, and in the winters I only had a little tiny flannel over a little crop top. I did not bring a jacket with me, and I kid you not, I was sick literally every 2 weeks. And it would take me like 2 weeks to recover. So like I was more sick than I was healthy. My health was like at an all-time low freshman year. So wear a jacket, and when you get to the party, go to the kitchen, put it in a cabinet. If you see like there's an area where there's a lot of jackets, I would recommend you not to put it there, because it probably will get stolen, especially if it's just like a black plain jacket that looks like everybody else's jacket. Put it in the kitchen cabinets. But yeah, just wear a jacket. Don't get sick. It really is not a fun time. It's a really terrible time, because trust me, you really do not want to be sick, because when you get sick in college, you're literally, it feels like you're sick forever, and you just never get better, and it's just not a fun time. So wear your jacket. Another thing is that, especially freshman year, you know, parties are a huge part of college, and a lot of people go out, and for some people it might be their first time, so it's gonna be wild. You're gonna see things that you might have never seen before, like Coke. And I don't mean Coca-Cola, I mean Coke as in crack cocaine Coke. So you might be a little shook. And all I want to say about this is that if you do see people, you know, doing something and you're not comfortable with that, that's just not you. Do not feel pressured like you have to partake in that. Even if you get offered, it's perfectly fine to say no. And I promise you, this is not like high school where if you decline something, or like if you decline a drink or anything like that, one person is not going to go around and tell like the whole world, and you won't wake up the next day being like, oh my god, like everybody knows that I said no and now I'm a loser. Like, no, literally nobody cares. I promise you, nobody cares. And for example, if you don't even want to go out, don't feel like you have to go out, you know what I mean? Just be like, no, I'm gonna stay in, and it's perfectly fine, because I promise you, people don't really care, and they're not gonna go around telling the whole entire world, and if they do, then they're immature, and you don't need those kind of people in your life anyways. But more oftentimes than not, if you don't want to go out or something like that, or you don't want to drink, or you don't want to do other, you know, things, it's perfectly fine if you say no, and people will just be like, oh, like, okay. And they're not gonna be like, oh
my god, she's such a loser, or like, he's such a loser, what the heck?
Like, no. So you do you. Do what makes you comfortable, what makes you happy, and don't feel like you're forced to do anything, because you're really not. And just stand your ground, basically. And it doesn't really matter what other people think. And if people do think you're a loser for that, well then F them, because that doesn't really matter, and you shouldn't be forced to do something that you don't want to do. Another thing that deals just with like parties in general, if you see someone that like clearly isn't doing well, and you know, maybe needs to go home, reach out to them. Just be like, hey, like, where do you live? Take them back to their dorm, and just be a nice person, because you never know what could happen later on that night if you had not, you know, taken them home, and you don't know how grateful they will be the next morning that someone actually cared about them, and that nothing bad happened, and that they got back home safely. So if you see someone who needs a little help, who got a little too turned, just help them out, and you will be greatly appreciated, I promise. And now, in terms of something that will help with time management, is getting a planner. Get yourself a planner. Get yourself a nice pretty planner, so that, you know, you're like more inclined to write in it, and put it like on your desk, not in your desk. I left mine like in my desk drawer a lot of the time, so I didn't really see it, and there is quite a few weeks that are empty and I didn't use it, which honestly explains a whole lot. But make sure you not only get a planner and use it, and you're probably like, duh, like why would I get it if I'm not going to use it, but you really might forget. So put it somewhere where you can always see and always write in it. And another thing that I would recommend is to try to plan out your days like based on time. Like for example, be like from 5 to 6 tomorrow I'm gonna study, and then actually follow through with that, and then you can check it off and be all nice and satisfied when you complete things. But I promise you, a planner will help you so freaking much and will really help you manage your time, which is something that I personally had trouble with for a while, and that happens to a lot of other people too, where time management just, you know, takes a while to master. So you want to make sure you get that down as soon as possible. And those are all of my tips for this video, and I will be posting more back to school videos, specifically how to choose a college major if you have no idea what you want to do with your life. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.